How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome back to another video. And 2020 seems to be the year for recycling smartphones. I talked about the Poco F2 Pro being basically a copy of the Redmi K30 Pro series of smartphones, and it looks like Realme is now at it once again. So the Realme Narzo 10 and 10A are basically a recycled version of the Realme 6i, at least the Narzo 10 is. And I don't really blame Realme for doing this. They might have had spare chassis lying around, and the only way they can get rid of it is if they rebrand the phone and sell it at a slightly cheaper price than the international variant, which is what the Narzo 10 is doing at 11,999 rupees, and it's available on the 18th of May at 12 p.m. Now, 11,999 rupees translates to around the 580 dirham price tag, and if we were to go one step further at USD, it's $158, and for $158 you're getting all of these specifications, including that 18-watt quick charger out of the box. So the MediaTek Helio G90 AI processor is a decent processor clocked at 2.0 GHz. The 48 megapixel quad camera setup is also really good, and we didn't really imagine to get these sort of specifications, especially at this price point, and now we're getting them. The 5000 mAh battery means this thing is going to last absolutely ages, and it's got Realme UI running on the latest Android 10. I say it's going to last an absolute decade because the screen on this thing is a 6.5-inch HD plus screen, and I think that's where the major sacrifice on the phone comes in. But if you don't really care about multimedia consumption, maybe you're just looking for, the very basic necessities, this phone is right up there. Now, I did mention that this is cheaper than the international variant, but it's exactly the same in terms of specifications, and let me actually prove it. So this is the Narzo 10's webpage, and this is the Realme 6i's webpage right here. It's got the exact same specifications and the exact same design. Now let's go back into the Narzo 10 specifications and have a look at those colors. That white and that green. I mean, come on. They already copied the design. They pretty much didn't do anything to it apart from changing the price tag here and there, and they couldn't even think of more engaging colors. I mean, I give up on this company, but here's a look at the overall specifications. You're also looking at 4 GB of DDR4 RAM with 128 GB of storage. As I mentioned, a 6.5-inch HD plus display with a mini drop full screen, or that's basically the notch display that they're talking about, with Gorilla Glass 3 protection as well. Really good stuff, to be honest. And one thing I do want to point out is the fact that this thing has a 3-card SIM slot, so you're looking at dual SIM capabilities as well as expansion via micro SD. And in terms of connectivity, it's not going to give you 5G, but it's definitely going to give you things that you'd need on a modern day smartphone, whether that's Bluetooth and basic Wi-Fi up to 2.4 GHz. Now, one thing I would have really liked to see would have been NFC support, but I don't think that this phone has it, and that might be another drawback to the phone. As I mentioned, the 48 megapixel primary camera also has an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens accompanying it, a 2 megapixel macro lens, as well as a black and white portrait lens. Now, this isn't going to be a magnificent camera at all, but it's going to get you through, when you have to take a photo, you can do it with this phone. And for a price tag like this, you don't really sort of find room to complain about. And that brings me on to the Narzo 10A, which is an even cheaper variant of pretty much the same sort of phone, and you get kind of the same design. So it's a 6.5-inch HD plus screen, once again with a fingerprint scanner on the back, a triple camera, so not a quad camera, and an iconic design with Realme branding at the back. And this Realme branding is hard to miss. I mean, it looks kind of cool if they could have some sort of cover for the phone where you could customize the cover with your name. Maybe this trend might catch on. We saw this with the Honor 30 Pro series back in, I think last month, and it's sort of catching on already, but maybe with the likes of customization, it could catch on more, but that defeats the purpose of this phone being so cheap. This phone is priced at 8,499 rupees, which, if we do a quick conversion, translates to around the $111 or $112 price tag. And in dirhams, I don't think it's available in the UAE, but locally in India, it translates to around 411 dirhams, which is just insane value for money considering you're getting all of this. I mean, the triple camera in itself is value, but the 5000 mAh battery is really where this thing sells it. I mean, with these specifications, I can see this phone lasting easily around 2 days, maybe even 2.5 days of heavy use. So you're looking at it right there. Now, again, the color is somewhat questionable. They've named it so blue and so white, and I kind of want to puke at the color scheme. But apart from that, I mean, you can't really complain for a phone that's 411 dirhams, or just shy of $100. And this could be very well a good phone for, you know, children who want to have their first phone, touchscreen phone, maybe a decent camera as well. And to be honest, this is available on the 22nd of May. And for someone adopting it at a first glance as a first time, I think this makes sense. It's got 3GB of RAM, 32GB of storage, again, Realme UI on top of Android 10. It's going to be bloated, no doubt. It's not going to be, you know, like Motorola-esque where you get a clean Android experience, but you know, you get things with Realme UI that you might not get with stock Android. Aside from the bloatware, some of the things it comes with is kind of helpful, especially that video editing software that they have inside the gallery, or, you know, just random small things that you might grow on. So you don't really have to dismiss Realme UI just by looking at it. I mean, people should give it a chance before dismissing it completely. Again, micro SD card expansion, the same display, LCD HD plus display. Now this thing doesn't mention Gorilla Glass, which means it might be Gorilla Glass 2 or even older, but that 5000 mAh battery still remains with only 10-watt charging. So that's where another sacrifice comes into play. The triple camera is also a sacrifice, so it's just a 12 megapixel main camera with 4 times digital zoom, when in a era when we're getting 5x optical zoom in flagships. This might be sort of a downscaled photography experience, but nonetheless, you do get those features, and that's where you have to commend Realme for, you know, even thinking of these features and giving it to the public at such an affordable price tag, including that 3.5mm headphone jack, which stays on both of these smartphones. But yeah, so 18th of May and 22nd of May is when we can expect the Narzo 10 and the Narzo 10A. To me, yes, it's a recycled phone, but I think it's gonna do well in a localized market, especially in India, because people want cheap phones that can do pretty much everything a flagship can do, but not as well as a flagship. And I think this is a perfect middle ground for that, for people who don't want to spend a lot of money. Maybe they could buy 4 of these phones in a year and still spend less money than spending on a flagship device, and pretty much getting a decent enough experience. Now, if you're doing heavy multitasking, heavy editing, or you rely on your phone for crucial work, I wouldn't recommend this phone at all. I mean, it will slow you down if you rely on your phone for multimedia editing, things like video editing, you know, even editing photos. This might not cut it because of that HD plus screen. But aside from that, if you just rely on it for casual phone calls, play a few games here and there, and you know, you just want a phone for the heck of it, this is a phone that's perfect for you. But that about sums up this video. So let me know what you guys think once again down in the comments. Thanks for watching. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.